All right, so I want to start off this morning by, I don't know if any of you recognize this old guy, but I think you would have heard his name at least, Andrew Carnegie, a self-made businessman and often referred to as the father of philanthropy. He set off from an early age to make a lot of money and do a lot of good, and obviously we all know that he achieved that. His motto that he was reported to have followed obviously very closely was spend the first third of your life getting all the education that you can. Spend the second third of your life making as much money as you can. And the last third of your life giving as much of it away as you can. And I think his life really speaks of that. During it, he gave away $350 million. And in today's terms, that is billions of dollars. During his lifetime, he didn't only give away money, he also contributed to the construction of libraries. He helped build over 2,500 libraries in America, Europe, and across the rest of the world. And I think it's fair to say that he really believed in education for all. He really didn't say no to a request for a donation to build a library as long as you met his criteria. A very basic criteria, the most important of all, was that you would open up access free to everybody. He obviously believed very, very highly in an education for all and access to knowledge for all, and he lived his life that way. My favourite quote of his is this one: "There is not such a cradle of democracy upon the earth as the free public library." And I think it's awesome that we're in a library today. How cool is that? "This republic of letters where neither rank, office, nor wealth receives the slightest consideration." And I think that is just the coolest thing, that even today, libraries won't charge you anything unless you are late with your book. So as I said, he was very, very passionate about learning, yet 84 years later, there are 250 million children that don't even have access to the basics. They just can't even get access to a simple book to teach themselves even what's going on in the world. And for decades, we've been shipping books all across the world, but the demand is just so great and the cost is so large that we're just never going to meet that need. That gap in that, the knowledge that you and I know compared to what the rest of the world has access to is often referred to as knowledge poverty. And you don't really hear much about knowledge poverty, with obviously food security and human rights issues getting top billing on the news, but knowledge poverty is extremely important, and as our knowledge grows exponentially year after year, the gap between those that have access to that knowledge and those that don't is just widening. And it's something that we don't think about much, but it's one of the key factors that keeps the poor shackled and in that place. So the world's collective knowledge is growing exponentially, and as we bathe in that huge upswing, we're leaving all of those that don't have access to it behind. So our pilot school is a really, really special place. It's in Gracier in Haiti. So we're launching our digital library there in October this year, and this school has 530 students, and each of them has an amazing story, but I met one of them about 6 months ago, I guess I met her. And Rebeline is a 9th grade student at the school, and she's the only 9th grade student, so the rest, it goes to K-8 at the moment, and she's self-learning through textbooks. And she was having trouble with her biology homework, and she asked the founder of the school, Megan, for help, and Megan said, "Sure, I'll help you, just bring your textbook over and we'll sit down and we'll talk about it." Well, it would be a textbook showing the human body with a big black mark in the centre. So she had absolutely no way of being able to differentiate the organs of the body because all you could see was a big black blotch. And how is a 9th grade student ever supposed to learn about the heart or the lungs or anything if all they can see is a big black splodge? And unfortunately, this is just the beginning. She's lucky she at least has some textbooks. Most schools don't have any books. So children in the majority world don't even have access to a basic education. And without that, how are they ever supposed to be the future leaders of their countries? The great news is that there's never been a better time to tackle this problem in history. Tablet prices are falling, and manufacturers are actually seeing the majority world as a brave new market for them, and they're designing tablets specific for this environment. And the content, you obviously know how easy it is to get access to content. You can get access to, if you know where to look, you can get access to novels, you can get access to textbooks, you can get access to even entire course material. Harvard puts out their entire course material online for you. It's just if you know where to find it. EdTech is booming, and there's more and more tech companies entering this space all the time. So as you can see, there's lots of things coming together to make this the right time to enter this, to fix this problem. So the future is exciting, but before I tell you what we're doing, I'd like to tell you how we got there. As Paul mentioned, in 2010, my husband and I, let me stop for a second. In 2010, we were actually, I was working for the government here in Queensland, and I was building a $1 billion housing program. Don't know if you remember the stimulus program, but my team was assigned the task of building accommodation for the elderly in our community, the disabled in our community, and low-income families. And it was a huge challenge. We had to build 4,000 units of accommodation in 2 years, and I loved my job. It felt like it had real purpose, but it was during my tenure there that the 7.00 earthquake hit the tiny Caribbean nation of Haiti. And I remember standing watching the TV screen just thinking, how can this be happening? Like, the destruction just seemed so immense and the suffering was just enormous. And I remember standing there with just tears streaming down my face just thinking, how can this be real? And I have to admit, though, it was only 2 weeks later that Haiti was furthest from my mind. It had been replaced on our TV screens by another world event, and I'd honestly forgotten about it. It was then that I started having dreams, and I started having dreams about Haiti every night. I put my head on the pillow, and it wasn't dreams about the destruction, it was dreams about transformation. It wasn't dreams about what Haiti was, and it was broken at the time. It was dreams about what could be. And I thought, this is really odd. These dreams went on for 2 weeks, and I just felt drawn to Haiti, and I would spend my night times researching about Haiti and finding out as much as I could. And I decided it was probably better, I better speak to my husband and let him know I think that we should be moving to Haiti. And so I sat him down and I said, hey, you know how I've been having these dreams? I really think that we're supposed to go to Haiti and help. And his answer was pretty clear. He said, no way, not gonna ever happen. So we had a problem. So I kept trying. I'm pretty persistent. I don't really like to hear the word no. And that just was met with a louder, no way, never gonna happen. And then I remember telling one of my friends, Joe, about all these dreams I was having, and I was telling her the whole story, and he heard, Barry, my husband, heard me from the other end of the house, and he's like, stop talking about Haiti, we're not going to Haiti. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop. I really enjoy a peaceful home, so I'm not going to mention it again. And I figured if we were supposed to go, he would soon find out. And he did. It was only actually a couple of weeks later we were sitting at church, and the speaker was talking about the poor, and he was talking about leaving your comfortable life to meet the needs of others. And I've got to be honest, it didn't really impact me that day. I don't know why. But I turned to my husband, and I could tell that he was very impacted. His heart was broken, and as we drove out of church that morning, he was crying, and which is not good when you're driving. And I said to him, what's going on? What's wrong? And he's like, we're going to Haiti. And I was like, really? Do you want to talk about it? He said, no. So thankfully the no turned to yes, and we began talking about it, and we began planning what that looked like and what it would look like to move to Haiti. And as Paul mentioned, we packed everything, and we sold everything we could, and we rented our house. And so we got on that plane, and it was funny because we were really, really probably the most inept would-be development workers going around. We didn't speak the language, we didn't know anybody, and we didn't have anyone to work with. So you can sit there and think we were pretty crazy, because looking back, it certainly looks that way. But the good thing that my husband did, he's such a planner, he booked accommodation. There's not a lot of accommodation. Obviously, Haiti's in ruin after the earthquake, and so he booked accommodation on a ship called the Esmeralda. And the Esmeralda is like an old converted cruise liner converted to emergency accommodation. And he thought, well, that's a good idea. We can at least go there, have somewhere to stay. They'll pick us up at the airport. We'll get to meet people. We'll see where we can be most useful. Well, that was great, but we got on the plane from LA to Miami. We're 6 hours away from Haiti, approximately, and we got an email from the ship's crew to say, really sorry, we can't pick you up at the airport. We've been asked to leave the country, so we've set sail. Yep. So, as I said, 6 hours away from landing in Haiti-ish, and our accommodation just put the sails up. It was pretty terrifying, I've got to be honest. I looked at Barry and said, what the heck do we do now? And at that point, we had a choice. We had a choice to make. We could either run and head back home, we could wait it out in Florida and figure things out, or we could push on to Haiti. Now, before I tell you what we did, I'd like to tell you why we did it. In 2004, Barry and I were in Thailand for our honeymoon. We were walking along the streets of a restaurant strip in Phuket, and all the restaurateurs were coming out, and I don't know if you've ever been to Phuket, but they will come out and try and get you into their restaurant. And we just kind of smiled politely and we kept walking. And then we came across this lovely man. He jumped in front of us and he said, "Please say yes." And we thought, that is an odd sales pitch. He wasn't trying to convince us about his hot curry or his giant crayfish. All he simply says was, "Please say yes." Now, it's been 10 years, almost 10 years since that day, and we have never, ever forgotten that man. So going back to Florida, what would you do if you were sitting in our position? We stood there as our flight to Haiti was called, and we had a choice to make. And the good thing is that we felt it in our heart, that same message. Please say yes. Please say yes. See, I believe that we were all created with a purpose. We're all here for a reason. Now, whether you know it or not, you all have something inside you that you need to do. And some of you, it's really easy to tell. Like, for instance, I'm getting emotional because I'm about to tell you about my big idea. And so I get really emotional. I start to shake and my voice starts to quiver and I sound like I'm really nervous. And that's a really obvious sign, obviously, that you're really passionate about something. And for some of you, it may not be as obvious. But I guarantee that if you spend a little bit of time, you'd figure out what you're meant to be doing here. And at some point, you've got to say yes, which finally we're used to that slide. At some point, you have to say yes. You have to take that idea, that thing that's welling up inside you, and you have to step out of the comfort. And you have to be prepared to pay the price. So, back to Florida. We got on that plane, and we've never looked back. So now I want to tell you what we're doing. We'd been in Haiti maybe 7 months, and during that time, I had seen lots of schools that didn't have any books, and I had seen some with really small amount of books, and they're under lock and key. They're just so precious. And there were lots of things that I could have been involved in while we were in Haiti. There's lots of really great things going on there, and they all would have been worthwhile, but they weren't doing what this does. They weren't stirring me like this does. And I saw kids with no books, but at the same time I thought, well, what the heck can I do about it? Like, I knew shipping books was expensive. I knew they've tried to do that for decades, so that wasn't it. And it was funny because we'd run out of books. I read a lot, my husband reads a lot, we'd run out of books, and obviously we don't have a TV in Haiti, so I was looking at e-readers. I was doing e-reader research for ourselves, thinking, well, this would be a good solution for us. And the idea hit me like a lightning bolt. And I jumped straight to my feet. I said, Barry, you've got to listen to this. I said, we've got to build a digital library specifically for Haiti and make it available. And then I stopped and thought about it for a second and thought, well, that's really big. That's really huge. No, wait, there's no way. How am I going to do that? And so I decided there had to be somebody else doing it. I figured it was a good idea. Somebody else is already working on it. I'll just find them, connect them into Haiti, and that sounded simple enough. I thought, yeah, I could do that. So I spent 3 months researching it at night and weekends. I allowed myself to research this problem. And unfortunately, after 3 months, I'd come up short. I couldn't find anybody working on the problem. I couldn't find a single scalable solution. And it frustrated me, obviously, but I realised that it was time. We had to do this. There are lots of digital libraries out there, which is great. Brisbane City Council is digitising their backlogs. But who's making access to communities that have intermittent communication, 2G and 3G networks? Who's giving access to these communities? And so Library for All was born after lots and lots of prodding from my wonderful husband. It just seemed so big, and it took me quite a few months to wrap my head around it. And thankfully, as I mentioned, in October this year, we are launching. I know TED is about ideas worth spreading, but we're past the idea stage. We're about to launch, and it's really exciting. See, welling up, getting excited. It's really exciting to me because very soon, that school I mentioned in Haiti will have access to a library of content that's specifically for Haiti. So we're curating the content within Creole, which is a language of the country, and then also French, which is their educated language. And all these resources they wouldn't have access to. I mean, it's actually taking us a lot of time to find these resources. They're locked away or they're kind of hidden somewhere over here, and we're bringing all those together. So imagine a funnel, and that's basically we're bringing the best of the internet into one curated library for that area. And the cool thing is we've even got publishers on board. So 6 of the top 10 publishers in the world have backed us and have agreed to give us their content. How cool is that? And so now my challenge to you is considering all of the things that, obviously we're talking about today. You're going to hear lots of ideas. There are many, many things you can be involved in, and many, many things you could say yes to. And some of them would be great. Some of them would be good. But what I'd like to challenge you to do is actually consider the thing that you were made for. Think about what stirs you, what you'd be prepared to pay the price for. Because, Simon would tell you, and I can tell you, and my husband will tell you, there's always a price to pay. It's just whether you're prepared to pay it. And so my challenge to you is to stand in front of the mirror tomorrow. I want you to think about what you're here for. Think about what your idea could be. It could be deep down inside, or it could be bubbling up close to the surface. But as you look in the mirror tomorrow, I want you to think about that idea and stop saying no. Stop saying no, because the person or the people that are depending on you bringing forward that idea are waiting. They're waiting for you. So instead of saying no, ooh, hear it, the emotion. Instead of saying no, stand there and listen to my friend from Thailand. Think of my friend from Thailand. Please say yes. Please say yes. Please say yes. Thank you.